Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unravel the story of World War II, a conflict that was really born from humiliation, driven by the ambition of one man, and in the end, lost because of a few fatal, arrogant mistakes that changed our world forever.
And this wasn't just another war. It was a global cataclysm. The alliances we have today, the technology, the very map of the world, so much of it was forged in the fires of this conflict. And its consequences, they aren't just in history books, they are all around us.
Now, here's the thing that's truly staggering. The world plunged right back into a massive war just 2 decades after the war to end all wars. So, to really get why that happened, we've got to rewind the clock. Not to 1939, but all the way back to 1918, to the very moment World War I ended.
So our story really kicks off in a German military hospital. There's a 28-year-old soldier in there, temporarily blinded by a gas attack, and he is just seething, absolutely enraged by the news that Germany has surrendered, and his name was Adolf Hitler. Okay, so the fighting stopped in 1918, right? But the peace that followed, man, it felt more like a punishment. The Treaty of Versailles was basically designed by a victorious and, frankly, terrified Europe to make sure Germany could never, ever start another war. So get this. Germany was hit with reparations of 132 billion gold marks. That's an astronomical sum. We're talking trillions in today's money. The goal wasn't just to get paid back, it was to completely crush the German economy for a generation. And that decision, it shattered German pride. The humiliation was total. Seriously, this wasn't a negotiation. It was a diktat, an order. Germany was disarmed, its army capped at just 100,000 men. It was carved up, stripped of valuable land and resources. And all of this created this deep, simmering national resentment, which a young, ambitious Hitler was about to tap into.
So, fueled by all this national anger, Hitler forms the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Yep, the Nazi Party. His goal was simple: take all that rage and humiliation and turn it into a powerful political movement.
Now, his first attempt to just grab power by force in 1923, it was a total disaster. But in prison, he had this big realization. He had to do it legally. He had to use the system, use democracy itself, to destroy it from the inside out. And while he was in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf, where he basically laid out his entire playbook. He promised to rip up the Versailles Treaty, take back lost German lands, and make Germany great again. To a nation that felt completely broken and humiliated, this message was intoxicating.
And once he got that power, boy, he did not waste a second. He immediately started rearming Germany in secret, on a massive scale. He was getting ready to make good on his promises and, well, to set the entire world on fire.
So, to kickstart his war, he needed an excuse. And in a move that's just chillingly cynical, he made one up. On September 1st, 1939, German soldiers faked an attack on their own border and blamed Poland for it. And using that lie as his justification, German tanks rolled into Poland. The Second World War had begun. This conflict was going to be completely different from anything that came before it. This was a total war, where the line between the soldier on the front and the civilian back home just disappeared. Everybody was part of the war effort, and that meant everybody was a target. So the world pretty quickly split into 2 massive alliances. On one side, you had the Axis powers, Germany and Italy trying to take over Europe, and Japan with its own ambitions to control Asia, and on the other, the Allied powers, this huge coalition that would eventually band together to stop them. By 1941, you gotta understand, Hitler's war machine looked absolutely unstoppable. His armies had just steamrolled across Europe. France had fallen. Britain was on the ropes. It really looked like an Axis victory was just a matter of time. But they didn't win. So how did it all go so wrong for them? Well, the answer really comes down to 3 critical blunders, all born from pure ego, made by Hitler himself right at the peak of his power.
Okay, so each mistake made the next one worse. First, he failed to deliver the knockout blow to Britain. He got impatient, moved on, and gave them a chance to recover. Then he made maybe the most famous military blunder in history, invading the Soviet Union right as winter was setting in. The brutal cold and the fierce resistance just chewed up his army. And finally, in a moment of pure arrogance after Pearl Harbor, he declared war on the United States, a neutral country. He basically created a powerful new enemy for no reason. These 3 mistakes stretched his resources to the breaking point and ultimately sealed Germany's fate.
And the consequences of those blunders? They were swift and they were devastating.
With Germany now fighting on multiple fronts, the Allied forces started closing in from all sides.
Italy was the first domino to fall. Then came D-Day, the massive Allied invasion of France. As the Allies pushed in from the west and the Soviets advanced from the east, Hitler's empire just crumbled. He ended up taking his own life as enemy soldiers were closing in on his bunker in Berlin.
Now, with Germany's surrender, the war in Europe was over. But in the Pacific, Japan was still fighting and fighting fiercely. To force a surrender and avoid what would have been an incredibly bloody invasion, the United States made a world-altering decision. It unleashed a terrifying new weapon, dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And just like that, the war was over.
The end of the fighting didn't exactly bring immediate peace. Instead, it gave birth to a totally new world order, one defined by new fears and a brand new kind of global tension.
The human cost is it's almost impossible to comprehend. Around 75 million people lost their lives. That was about 3% of the entire world's population at the time. The world was left staring at the dawn of the nuclear age and a new Cold War between the two superpowers left standing, the US and the Soviet Union.
And that leaves us with this really haunting question, doesn't it? The war showed this terrifying leap in our ability to destroy ourselves. It's a sobering reminder that the seeds of conflict, humiliation, ambition, ego, they're never really gone, not in a world that is still armed to the teeth.